We stand here in the name of freedom. At the heart of that Western freedom and democracy is the belief that the individual man, the child of God, is the touchstone of value, and all society, groups, the state, exist for his benefit. Therefore, the enlargement of liberty for individual human beings must be the supreme goal and the abiding practice of any Western society. The first element of this individual liberty is the freedom of speech, the right to express and communicate ideas, to set oneself apart from the dumb beasts of field and forest, to recall governments to their duties and obligations. Above all, the right to affirm one's membership and allegiance to the body politic, to society, to the men with whom we share our land, our heritage, and our children's future. Hand in hand with freedom of speech goes the power to be heard, to share in the decisions of government which shape men's lives. Everything that makes life worthwhile, family, work, education, a place to rear one's children, and a place to rest one's head, all this rests on decisions of government. All can be swept away by a government which does not heed the demands of its people. Therefore, the essential humanity of men can be protected and preserved only where government must answer, not just to those of a particular religion or a particular race, but to all its people. And even government by the consent of the governed, as in our own Constitution, must be limited in its power to act against its people, so that there may be no interference with the right to worship or with the security of the home, no arbitrary imposition of pains or penalties by officials high or low, no restriction on the freedom of men to seek education or work or opportunity of any kind, so that each man may become all he is capable of becoming. These are the sacred rights of Western society. These are the essential differences between us and Nazi Germany, as they were between Athens and Persia. They are the essence of our difference with communism today. I am inalterably opposed to communism because it exalts the state over the individual and the family, and because of the lack of freedom of speech, of protest, of religion, and of the press, which is characteristic of totalitarian states. The way of opposition to communism is not to imitate its dictatorship, but to enlarge individual human freedom in our own countries and all over the globe. There are those in every land who would label as communist every threat to their privilege. But as I have seen on my travels in all sections of the world, reform is not communism. And the denial of freedom in whatever name only strengthens the very communism it claims to oppose. For 2 centuries, my own country has struggled to overcome the self-imposed handicap of prejudice and discrimination based on nationality, social class, or race. Discrimination profoundly repugnant to the theory and command of our Constitution. Even as my father grew up in Boston, signs told him that no Irish need apply. 2 generations later, President Kennedy became the first Catholic to head the nation. But how many men of ability had, before 1961, been denied the opportunity to contribute to the nation's progress because they were Catholic or of Irish extraction? In the last 5 years, the winds of change have blown as fiercely in the United States as anywhere in the world. But they will not, they cannot, abate. For there are millions of Negroes untrained for the simplest of jobs, and thousands every day denied their full equal rights under the law. And the violence of the disinherited, the insulted, and injured looms over the streets of Harlem and Watts and Southside Chicago. But a Negro American trains as an astronaut, one of mankind's first explorers into outer space. Another is the chief barrister of the United States government, and dozens sit on the benches of court. And another, Dr. Martin Luther King, is the second man of African descent to win the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent efforts for social justice between the races. We must recognize the full human equality of all our people, before God, before the law, and in the councils of government. We must do this not because it is economically advantageous, although it is, not because the laws of God and man command it, although they do command it, not because people in other lands wish it so. We must do it for the single and fundamental reason that it is the right thing to do. And this must be our commitment outside our borders as it is within. It is your job, the task of the young people of this world, to strip the last remnants of that ancient, cruel belief from the civilization. Each nation has different obstacles and different goals, shaped by the vagaries of history and experience. Yet as I talk to young people around the world, I am impressed not by diversity, but by the closeness of their goals, their desires and concerns, and hope for the future. There is discrimination in New York, apartheid in South Africa, and serfdom in the mountains of Peru. People starve in the streets in India. Intellectuals go to jail in Russia. Thousands are slaughtered in Indonesia. Wealth is lavished on armaments everywhere. These are differing evils, but they are the common works of man, and therefore they call upon common qualities of conscience and of indignation, a shared determination to wipe away the unnecessary sufferings of our fellow human beings at home, and particularly around the world. It is these qualities which make of youth today the only true international community. More than this, I think that we could agree on what kind of a world we want to build. It would be a world of independent nations, moving towards international community, each of which protected and respected basic human freedoms. It would be a world which demanded of each government that it accept its responsibility to ensure social justice. Just to the north, here are lands of challenge and opportunity, rich in natural resources, land and minerals and people. Yet they are also lands confronted by the greatest odds, overwhelming ignorance, internal tensions and strife, and an often destructive and hostile nature. Many of these nations, as colonies, were oppressed and exploited, yet they have not estranged themselves from the broad traditions of the West. They are hoping and gambling their progress and stability on the chance that we will meet our responsibilities to help them overcome their poverty. In another world, cleansed of hate and fear and artificial barriers, South Africa could play an outstanding role in that effort. This is without question a preeminent repository of the wealth and knowledge and skill of the continent. Here are the greater parts of Africa's research scientists and steel production, most of its reservoirs of coal and electric power. In your faculties and councils, here in this very audience, are hundreds and thousands of men who could transform the lives of millions for all time to come. But that help cannot be accepted if we, within our own countries or in our relations with others, deny individual integrity and the common humanity of man. Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on youth. The cruelties and obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. It cannot be moved by those who cling to a present which is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement of danger. It demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. As I have seen, and as I have said, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, and now in South Africa, it is a revolutionary world we live in. And thus, I have said in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe, and in the United States, it is young people who must take the lead. There is, said an Italian philosopher, nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Yet, this is the measure of the task of your generation, and the road is strewn with many dangers. First is the danger of futility, the belief there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery and ignorance, injustice and violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the world of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth, and a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from 1,000,000 different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. The second danger is that of practicality, of those who say that hopes and beliefs must bend before immediate necessities. Of course, if we would act effectively, we must deal with the world as it is. We must get things done. But if there was one thing President Kennedy stood for that touched the most profound feeling of young people across the world, it was the belief that idealism, high aspirations, and deep convictions are not incompatible with the most practical and efficient of programs, that there is no basic inconsistency between ideals and realistic possibilities, no separation between the deepest desires of heart and mind and the rational application of human effort to human problems. A third danger is timidity. For every 10 men who are willing to face the guns of an enemy, there is only one willing to brave the disapproval of his fellow, the censure of his colleagues, the wrath of his society. Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence, yet it is the one essential, vital quality for those who seek to change a world which yields most painfully to change. For the fortunate among us is comfort, the temptation to follow the easy and familiar paths of personal ambition and financial success so grandly spread before those who have the privilege of education. But that is not the road history has marked out for us. There is a Chinese curse which says, "May he live in interesting times." Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also more open to the creative energy of men than any other time in history. And everyone here will ultimately be judged, will ultimately judge himself on the effort he has contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which his ideals and goals have shaped that effort. So we part, I to my country and you to remain. We are, if a man of 40 can claim that privilege, fellow members of the world's largest younger generation. Each of us has our own work to do. I know at times you must feel very alone with your problems and difficulties. But I want to say how impressed I am with what you stand for and the effort you are making. Like the young people of my own country and of every country I have visited, you are in many ways more closely united to these brothers of your time than to the older generations in your nation, determined to build a better future. That you know, as President Kennedy said to the youth of my country, that the energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it, and the glow from that fire can truly light the world.